Hello optimizers! My name is John, and in this video you are going to learn how to enable the Content Delivery API in Optimizely CMS number 12. Now, the Content Delivery API is Optimizely's way of exposing data out of the CMS via an API. So let's say you're building your mobile app, you want to get content from the CMS, you will need to enable the Content Delivery API in order to get that data. So what's happened recently is the Content Delivery API has been upgraded from version 2 to version 3. So there's a few changes and a few surprises along the way. So what you're going to learn specifically in this video is how to install the Content Delivery API, how to configure it. We're also going to look at how we can access data. So we'll look at Postman, do a few queries. We'll look at the difference between expanding things and not expanding things, because that can catch you out. Also, because we're using V3, there's a new JS SDK available. So we'll quickly go over the process of connecting the SDK to your backend. So, if you want to create some JavaScript apps, that sort of stuff, you can understand all the process and all that sort of amazing stuffs. Now, if this sounds good to you and you love Optimizely, CMS development, or basically you just want to become better at development, then this is the channel for you. Before we move on, don't forget to smash the subscribe button. I know loads of people watch this and they go, yeah, I'll do it, and they forget to and then lose the content. Don't be a numbnuts, smash subscribe now. Cool. So, assuming you have done that, let's crack on and start installing this Content Delivery API. Before we begin with the proceeding, probably worth pointing out that all the code that you're about to see is available from my starter kit. Now, I know how frustrating it is trying to tippy-tappy stuff off screen. So if you want to just, cheat, get too frustrated trying to copy things, you can basically head on over to my GitHub, John D. Jones in the github.com. When you get here, first thing you want to be is a legend by following me. At the bottom of my pin section, you will find this John D. Jones Optimizely CMS V12 starter kit. So yeah, follow me, clone it, all the code is there. Now, before we actually get going with the Content Delivery API, as you would expect, we need to install the things via the NuGet. Now, when we're working with Optimizely, they have their own NuGet feed. So what you want to do is Tools, NuGet Package Manager. In here, you just need to go to Package Manager Settings, and you want to make sure that in Package Sources, right here, you have the Episerver NuGet feed installed. So the feed URL is http://nuget.episerver.com/feed/packages/svc. So unless you install this feed, you will not see the packages I'm about to describe to you. So in order to install Content Delivery API, you'll go to the Browse tab, and what you'll need to do is search for episerver.contentdeliveryapi.cms. And if you're using a class library, you might want to install the episerver.contentdeliveryapi.core. Now, when you do this, what will happen is this Episerver OpenID Connect will also be installed. And this is really handy if you want to create secure content delivery content. Now, the API and everything we're doing today is going to be open to everyone, so anyone can access it. However, if you want to secure things, you'll probably likely want to use this OpenID Connect. Now, little tip, if you want to do this and you're feeling, I don't know what to do, if you head on over to the Content Delivery JS Sdk, from here you can basically look in the source folder, somewhere in here. Ooh, I'm looking in the wrong place. Source. Music view samples decoupled, maybe backend. There we go. In here we've got startup CS. If you scroll down here and you go to this section, you can see there's a good example of how to use this OpenID Connect. So as you can see, we've got application user, front end, configuring with callbacks and calls and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, if you want to create a secure endpoint, my recommendation is using the Content Delivery JS SDK stuff. And yeah, just copying and pasting some bits from here. Cool. So assuming we've got Content Delivery API installed, the next thing we're going to be doing is configuring it. And because we're now using the .NET Core, MVC5, whatever you want to call it, the startup file is our brand new best configuration friend. So in here, we've got our startup CS. Within here, you're going to be adding some code within configure services. So as you can see on the screen, we have a few things. So you'll need to add in this services.content add content definitions API. So this is brand new in v3, which wasn't around before. If we do a go to definition, you'll see that it comes from the episerver.content definitions API. So yeah, you need to make sure that this is installed, otherwise it's not going to work. Now, the next thing you need to do is add a reference to the add content delivery API. Now, in my example, because I want to keep it simple, you can see that I'm not passing any parameters in here. However, if I do a lambda, you can see that I'm going to get access to these things like allowed scopes, base route, cause policy, disable scope validation, required roles, scope claim. So if you want to do any of that validation that I was talking about with the OpenID Connect, you're going to be putting some parameters within there. Now, when you're setting this up, if you've come from v2 content delivery API, you might be in for a bit of a surprise. And that is because there's a few breaking changes. So as you can see, if you go to the official documentation, breaking changes v3, you'll notice that there's things which are like content API configuration, clients, extended content type model, included null values. These have all gone. So in the last time I used the content delivery API in CMS 11, I had all of this stuff. When I tried to copy it all over, everything broke. It confused me quite a lot. So yeah, just be aware that if you're trying to go from 2 to 3, there's going to be some properties which are now missing. Now, with all of this, you can see that I've got this with site-based calls. Now, because we're going to be working with a content delivery API, and we all know and love the calls, things might be restricted. So if you just want to create an API which is open for everyone, your development environment or your local development code base can talk to it, you're going to have to think about calls. Now in .NET Core, there's a few ways of messing about with calls. So first, you could do in the services this add calls. So using add calls, we can do an add policy. We give it a name, and as you can see, this name could be anything you want. I've just added a string at the top. And in here, we just do a builder. And with our builder, you can do allow any header and allow any method. So this is basically going to allow, open access. Now you can additionally, if we move down to the bottom within configure, you can also configure calls from in here as well. So what we can do here, if you can see, potentially you're going to have to add in some allow origin rules for your static files. So just because you enable calls within your JavaScript SDK, you might also have to enable the static files thing. So when you're making a request from your decoupled app architecture back to your origin, if you get some blocking errors, you're going to have to use this use static file section to allow a different calls policy. So something to be aware of. You can also define calls by itself within this section. So just by doing app.useCalls, again, you're going to get access to a builder, and from a builder you can do allow any origin, allow any method, allow any header, and this is going to open everything up. So you don't really need to do like the top and bottom. However, for this example and for people following along at home, I've added it. Also within this services add CMS, you can also do this configure external application options, and then you can say optimize for delivery equals true. So that's also a valuable thing to do. So as you can see, moving from v2 to v3, there's some changes. As long as you've got those packages at its easiest, it's only a few snippets and a few lines that you need to add to make everything work. So now let's have a look at how this works in the real world. Now we have a working content delivery API, let's test that we can get data out of it. Now I'm assuming you've set up Optimizer CMS 12, you've got a home page, you've got some data, and it's all configured in the backend. Now if you don't know how to do that, see my previous video which is linked below on how to set up the CMS, how to set up the site definitions, and all of that great stuff. Now in Postman, and I recommend that you start testing and doing all your testing with Postman, you put in your website URL, so this could be localhost 5000 or whatever it needs to be. The important thing is that you need to have this API /episerver/v3.0. Now, this gives you access to the API, and in this instance, I want to query for my home page. So this has a page ID of 5. You can figure out page IDs by going into the editor, clicking on a page, the ID will be in there, or you can find it within the URL. So as you can see, if I do a search from here, from my body, I've got all of this beautiful stuff. Now, if I copy this URL directly, and I put it within my Chrome, you can see I basically get this error, 404 not found. And that is because you need to set some special headers, otherwise you're going to get this error. So this is something which, I knew, but I forgot when I was setting this up. And I wasted about half an hour going, why is my content delivery API not working? Because I was trying to get everything working within the browser. So this is why when setting up, I always recommend that you use the Postman. Now, the reason why this happens is that if we look in our headers, you can see that we're passing in the accept header, and we're also setting up the type as JSON. So without setting up these few headers, you're not going to get anything working. You're going to have to create a 404. So yeah, test everything out using the Postman. Now, while we're here, I want to talk about expand. And this is like a little thing which can get you out. So when you're using the content delivery API, when you make a request, sometimes, and by default, it's not going to return all the data for you. So let's say you're on your home page, you have a content area, that content area contains blocks. Those blocks obviously going to have some data. And in this example, I have one here called content delivery API, content delivery main content area. And as you can see, we've got the details for it. However, there's nothing here about any of the content within it. So this is the reason why most of the time, whenever you work with a content delivery API, as you can see here, there's an expand equals star. So this means expand all of the things. Now this time, when we go back to our home page, we start looking in our main content area. You can see that we've got this expanded value. So this wasn't there before. And from here, you can see that we've got an array of components. And from here, you can see that we've now got our blocks. So we've got card container, there's loads of other information. So yeah, when you're setting this up and you want to work with any kind of data, pretty much every single time, you're going to have to add in this expand equals 0. And then when you're trying to actually access the property data, you're going to have to use the expand value object in the returned information. There is also another gotcha in this one, just so you're aware, is that when you start looking at this, it will only give you one level deep worth of nesting. So if you have a page with a content area, which has a block, which has a content area, you're not going to get that data. Now, I won't cover how to do that in this tutorial. However, you're going to have to start hooking into the CMS pipeline and doing some extra configurations. So in here, you can see that I've got this content model filter. From here, I'm actually doing some checks on the types of blog and block I'm using even, and then I'm actually appending extra data and returning it within the content delivery API. So yeah, when you're setting this up, this is something which is really fundamental, which you need to understand, is that by default, it won't return all data. And when you use expand, you're going to get this expanded property, but it's not going to give you the nested level of content area items that you expect it to. So this can catch you out if you're not aware of it. If you would like to learn more about the capabilities exposed by the Content Delivery API, then you can head over to the world.optimizely.com documentation. There's loads of stuff there. So from here, you can see all the endpoints. So you can see that we can access to content by passing an ID. We can get access to its children, ancestors. We can even query to get information about the site. So yeah, loads of good stuff over there. Now, before we wrap up, probably a good idea to talk about the new JS SDK, which works with Content Delivery v3. So if you're creating a JavaScript app, we want to write a bit of JavaScript to connect to the SDK. Instead of having to write everything yourself, you can use this very handy SDK. So head over to GitHub. From the Episerver, you can see that we've got content-delivery-js-sdk. Google for it, it's the repo that we looked at earlier. Now, I've got a very simple JS application here. Now to install it, you need to install the @episerver-content-delivery, so npmi episerver, blah, blah, blah. Now, the way that this works is that we have a import. So you can import a few things from here. We have a content loader and a content resolver. So content loader is useful for querying data when you know it's ID or it's GUID. Content resolver is good if you want to get content by a URL. We also have the default config option. So yeah, you'll probably want to do this. Now, as you can see in default config, we can specify the API URL. So this is going to be, the HTTP your website /. So we can then also, which is probably important, configure it to use the expand all. So as we saw in Postman doing that expand equals star, this is going to do the same thing. So you'll probably want to do this, and you can also probably, you can and you will want to enable select all properties. Now, as you can see here, we've got a few ways of accessing content. So first, you can use the content loader. Now, content loader has a get content method passing in a GUID. So again, go into the CMS, find the GUID for the item you want to query, just do a content loader.getContent, pass the GUID in, and it's going to return you all the data you need. Now, if you only know the URL, you can use the content resolver. So what we can do here is in resolve content, pass in a URL. I've forgotten what the second param is. The second param is an exact match. So yeah, let's put false on that. And then within our resolve, you're going to get access to your content item in the .content property. And finally, for an example, you can also get the children of any item. So again, using content loader, pass in your GUID, use the .getChildren, and you're going to get a list of all the data returned. So yeah, if you're thinking about content delivery API, there's no need to write everything from scratch. It's a good idea to use this SDK because it's fairly easy to use, as you can see. That is everything that you need to know to become a complete boss using Content Delivery API with Optimizely CMS. So by now, hopefully you understand how to install it, configure it, and get data out of it. Now, personally, I was really impressed and really happy to see that JavaScript SDK. Thought that was super cool, super easy to get going. And for me as an implementer, it means that I can use the SDK without having to worry too much. Let's say in a year's time, the Content Delivery API updates. I don't want to have to update my code because everything's broken. So using a standard SDK means that all of us as implementers have less worry that the Content Delivery API is going to change. Now, if you're still watching the video and me banging on at this stage, you must be interested in Content Delivery API. So I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on it and how you're planning on using it in production, if you are. To be transparent with you, when I was setting all this up, it did take me a little bit longer than I wanted to. I think the documentation could be a little bit better in places, and I do know it's being worked on. However, I'm hoping things like my starter kit will make it easier for you to get up and running. Now, if you are thinking about using Content Delivery API with, say, like a React head, so maybe Next.js, Gatsby, an SPA, whatever you want to build, you do need to think that currently Optimizely DXP or the hosting doesn't provide any way of doing satellite applications. So you need to think where you're going to host your application. Also, this is 2020 at the start of January. At the moment, there's a few issues with the inline editing. Again, I know this is being worked on. However, it's just a few caveats that you should be aware of before you get up and running. So I think, eventually it's all going to be amazing and brilliant. However, be warned that give yourself a little bit more time to build these things if you're determined. Personally, I've been building the starter kit using .NET Core. Everything works. I get access to all the plugins. It's all amazing. I actually enjoy the .NET Core side of things. So if you're building something at home in a project, I recommend that you really, really consider using the .NET Core approach because life's going to be a little bit easier for you. Anyway, I hope this video has been of value for you. If you've enjoyed it and you'd like to see my face a little bit more often, and why wouldn't you, I recommend that you smash the subscribe button. If you want to see me doing more types of content with the Optimizely, hit the like button. Like basically tricks the YouTube algorithm to show my video to more people. It also tells me that you want me to do more Optimizely content. So yeah, hit like and I'd appreciate it greatly. If you want to be a massive boss as well, I have got a book on Optimizely CMS, well, Episerver version 11. So yeah, you can buy that. There's a link below if you really want to. I also do a weekly Sunday newsletter, which gives you an update on all my content. So if you want to subscribe to these videos and get notified when they come out, yeah, that's another way of getting in contact. It's free to subscribe. There's an unsubscribe button. Up to you. Otherwise, I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are. Happy coding.